President Joe Biden made it unequivocally clear today he would not step aside from the presidential race, delivering a fiery message on Morning Joe and in a letter to congressional Democrats a day after some House members privately said he should drop out. As President Biden watches his support among some key Democrats in Congress start to crumble, one group has emerged as a vocal base of support, that is, on Capitol Hill. And that's Black lawmakers, particularly older ones. And you'll hear a little from one of those older Black lawmakers later in the show today. While most elected Democrats have avoided publicly weighing in on Biden's fate, and many have privately expressed skepticism, the leader and senior members of the Congressional Black Caucus have filled the void with full throated expressions of support. And Donald Trump told officials today that he supports a new Republican Party platform, one that reflects the presumptive nominee's new position on abortion rights and slims down policy specifics across all areas of government. A Republican platform that could read like a Trump rally. Well, that's what Republicans are gearing up for. The former president's campaign team has packed the 2024 Platform Committee, which meets in Milwaukee this week with the MAGA faithful. The primary goal is a short form 2024 document that is a pledge of allegiance to former President Trump rather than the statement of party values the platform has traditionally been. And tens of millions of Americans are facing major heat waves with temperatures consistently exceeding 90 degrees. But in big cities, the heat hits hardest for people of color and low-income residents. In New York, Black residents die from heat. Now that's heat stress at double the rate of white residents. And a key pillar of Trump's anti-crime platform demands police departments reinstate stop and frisk, which allows officers to randomly stop and search people for weapons or else risk critical federal dollars flowing into their coffers. Trump says it's very simple. I will insist that local jurisdictions return to what he calls proven common sense policing measures, such as stop and frisk. Well, a lot of Black folks disagree that it's very simple, particularly Black men. They are perplexed by Trump's claim to covet their vote while supporting policies that target and hurt them. And Donald Trump has tried to distance himself from Project 2025, a massive proposed overhaul of the federal government drafted by longtime allies and former officials in his administration. Now, this is days ahead of the think tank responsible for the program suggesting that there would be what they call a second American revolution if Trump is reelected. That's the news of the day. And this is Areva Martin in real time. And I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time. And this is the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind those headlines and bring you those stories that people are talking about. Well, today, in this hour, I will be joined again by Mayor Steve Reed. He is the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama. He is the first African-American mayor of that city. He is also the president of the African-American Mayors Alliance. There are over 600 Black mayors throughout this country, and they are highly organized and motivated around this upcoming election. So many of the issues that we have been talking about on the show today and that have been in the news lately impacts Black mayors, particularly the story about heat and heat stress and how African Americans are disproportionately impacted by this these unusual temperatures that we are seeing across the country. What are Black mayors in particular doing to address these issues? Also, this new statement by Donald Trump around stop and frisk and his bold pronouncement that he is going to tie federal funding to cities based on them implementing these tired, unsuccessful, racially motivated, unconstitutional policing methods like stop and frisk. What are Black mayors going to do if Donald Trump is reelected and they see their city being denied federal funding because they are not in support of these old policing methods that are not proven to be successful, but are proven to be very dangerous to Black men. And finally, what are Black mayors doing to encourage voters in their cities to turn out in record numbers, particularly in light of the chaos that has been happening, ensuing in the Democratic Party following some Democratic leaders calling on the top of the ticket, Joe Biden, to step down. Joe Biden won all the Democratic primaries. The voters have spoken, but yet there are some folks who believe he should just step aside, just overthrow the will of the people, have many primaries. There are so many ridiculous theories out there. And as if you were watching or listening in hour one, you heard my attorney, expert guest, Alan Orr, say, look, as I've been saying for the last week, these are not practical solutions. You can't just 119 days before an election, wave a magic wand and say we're going to have someone new at the top of the ticket. At 42 days before the convention, this convention, Democratic convention, they've been planning for 4 years since the last convention. So there's so many obstacles that any kind of replacement of Joe Biden would face. So the question to Steve Reed is, what are Black mayors doing? We know Black Congress people have stepped in the void and have been standing so strong for Joe Biden. What have Black mayors been saying and doing? When we come forward, my one-on-one with Birmingham, Alabama's Mayor Steve Reed. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
KBLA Talk 1580 is now celebrating 3 years of amplifying our voice and uplifting our community. We deeply appreciate your support of this radio station and will always do our level best to earn your support. Here's to many more years of loving and serving our community. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
I know it's gonna happen without you.
Celebrate July 4th with savings at Lowe's. For a limited time, save on the essentials you need to make your garden pop for summer, like Miracle-Gro 25-quart potting mix. Get 2 bags for just $16 and get up to 40% off, plus save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances. Hurry, these deals won't last long because Lowe's knows summer savings. Valid through 7/10. Miracle-Gro excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount, excluding supply. See Lowe's.com for more details while supplies last.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Try Venus for pubic hair and skin, the razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Discover the full regimen of products at GilletteVenus.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit LAFLA.org. LAFLA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back to the show, Mayor Reed. Always a pleasure to see you.
Always good to be with you.
Yeah, lots happened since we last talked. It seems like the world was set on fire. This morning, Joe Biden was on Morning Joe, fiery response. He sent a letter to congressional leaders. We know that the Congressional Black Caucus has been standing in the void with full throated expressions of support on the heels of that debate that many folks, said was a debacle for the Democrats. And, uh, folks have been calling for Biden to step aside, even some key Democratic Congress people. So my first question to you is, where have Black mayors been? We know where the Congressional Black Caucus, Hakeem Jeffries, and other Black congressional leaders. We heard Maxine Waters have a little clip. Robert, let's fire up that clip. I want to make sure that those folks that didn't hear it in hour one, and I don't know if Mayor Reed heard it, but let's listen to what Auntie Maxie had to say about Joe Biden and the party.
Where people are talking about Biden is too old. Hell, I'm older than Biden.
You look good, Congresswoman.
And I get up every morning.
All right.
And I exercise.
All right.
And I work late hours.
All right.
I take care of Black people.
All right.
Trump has told you who he is. He defined himself. He is a no good, deplorable, lying, despicable human being. And he's talking about if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be violence. There's going to be a civil war. Who the hell do you think he's coming after? Who's going to be targeted? Who is he talking about? But you know he means business because he is the one that led the invasion on the Capitol January 6th. Now, do we have to talk about the difference between these two? Now, I want to tell you, no matter what anybody says, it ain't going to be no other Democratic candidate. It's going to be Biden, and we better know it.
All right, Mayor Reed, it's going to be Biden, and we better know it. So that's what one of the senior members of the Black Caucus is saying. What are Black mayors saying in this moment?
Well, let me first say that only Congresswoman Waters can light up the Essence crowd like she did. And none of us in elected office could do that. She has earned that right and certainly has the wisdom and experience as well as the track record to be able to say that and do that. And I love her charisma. I love her passion, whether it's in DC or whether it's in Southern California or whether it's here on her visits to the voting rights trail here in Montgomery, Alabama. She brings that energy with her. So I just really, really appreciate that about her as well as her leadership. You know, I think that with Black mayors, we stand with President Biden and Vice President Harris. We know what they have done for our cities. As the president of African American Mayors Association, you know, we represent over 500 plus mayors across this country with more than 1/3 of the gross domestic product under our supervision. So we are in cities from LA to Long Beach to other parts of your area there in Southern California, all the way to the Bay Area, to Seattle, all the way to the South, and all places in between in the Midwest. So we understand that President Biden and Vice President Harris have been game changers for our communities, assisting those in terms of infrastructure investments, climate and sustainability priorities, small business support, all the things that we've been talking about, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the CHIPS Act in helping workforce development and job creation. We look at the wealth gap that was closed under President Biden. We think about the $16 billion towards HBCUs. We look at the $35 cap on insulin for those of us who have relatives and friends that are diabetic. we look at these things that he's done without Republican support in the House the last couple of years, and many of these things he did in his first 2 years, with a bipartisan effort. So I think that, Black mayors in particular understand this because we are tasked to get things done, and we don't have the luxury of being able to play off of our legislative colleagues at the state level or our congressional colleagues at the national level when people want that pothole fixed, or they want to hear fewer gunshots, or they want some more support for their home ownership, and all these things that the president has been so productive in doing. And I want to just say this just right out the gate. And I said this to a group yesterday in New Orleans. I don't know that we've had a president in the last 50 years, probably going back to LBJ, who has been as impactful as President Joseph R. Biden. I don't know that we've had that. And so when you consider the debate performance, we all saw that. It was not a good night, to put it mildly. But we've all had bad nights as elected officials and as public figures. So we can all relate to that. I think we have to be very careful not to fall into the trap of what Democrats can so often do, and even independents, of allowing one instance to undermine a record of success. And I think that both the president as well as Vice President Harris have kind of reinforced that in the last few days. And I believe that we have to look at the totality of the candidate and of his record, in particular when you juxtapose that with former President Trump. There's a difference there. And I think as Republicans have fallen in line, there may be something that Democrats and independents should consider doing as well.
Well, let me ask you this, Mayor Reed. A lot of criticism coming from the Democratic base. Some folks still talking about this replaced Biden. I think that's getting quelled now. But a lot of folks are asking, how come the Democrats didn't come out more forceful and shut that down? How come we were seeing stories about, Democrats privately talking about trying to replace, Joe Biden, Congress people coming out saying he should step aside or we should replace him. Even Clyburn, who's been such a supporter, talking about, well, if he does step aside. I'm just, Republicans never, ever called on Trump to step down. 34 convictions, 94 criminal counts, been adjudicated a rapist for all practical purposes, according to a judge in Manhattan. $454 million civil judgment in Manhattan, $84 million civil defamation, sexual assault damages for E. Jean Carroll. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Someone says 600 lies he told in 40 minutes in that debate that has been, talked about so much, but never, ever did we see this groundswell of Republicans calling for him to step down. Why would the Democrats, 125 days away from the election, knowing that you can't just change the person at the top of your ticket with that small amount of time left before the election, knowing all kind of legal hurdles that would be faced in states, knowing the financial hurdles, knowing the fight that would ensue in terms of who that replacement would be? How come we as Democrats, and I'm one of them, how come we could not shut that noise, that distraction down a lot sooner?
I think because we as Democrats, one, we're a big tent party, and so we welcome all thought, all ideas, and all types of people into our tent. But with that, we don't tend to set the ground rules very well. And because of that, you have people who are sharing different ideas, which they're fine to have publicly. Not as disciplined as the Republican Party is under Trump specifically. And I think that, there are also the concerns that what happened in the debate played into the fears that maybe some Democrats already had that the president maybe was too old to run again. But listen, I've been with the president just in the last 2 months. He's energetic. He's sharp.
Well,
He's
but let me
witty.
stop you. Let me stop you, Mary Reed. Those folks that thought he was too old. We had a primary process in this country. He overwhelmingly won that primary. So if folks thought he was too old, they had an opportunity to step forward to run for president. They had an opportunity to start a campaign to cause him to step down. Why on the eve of the election, an election that is so consequential? And I hear you. Yes, we are a Big Ten party. We tend to let people voice their concerns, but at some point, there's something called self-destruction, self-sabotage. You have to start. I started wondering, are some of these Democrats trying to purposely cause this party to implode?
I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just the nature of some. I mean, I want us to make sure we have not heard from a lot of the members of the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. We have not heard a lot from our Hispanic caucus. So when we think about this, and even some of our progressive caucus, it's been a few voices, right? And I think that's been extrapolated because the media has chosen to focus there as opposed to who Donald Trump is and what he said in that debate. We chose to focus on style over substance, which is how we got in this situation in 2016 with Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. So I want us to be very clear about this. This is serious business. These are domestic as well as foreign issues that are at stake, things that impact all of us as citizens of the United States, but certainly those of us who are trying to produce and perform for our residents in a way that brings about positive results. So I believe in our haste, in some of the hand-wringing over style, that there were those who got out too far, too fast. And I think what we have to consider is that President Biden was behind at one time in 2020 to his Democratic rivals in that primary. He was behind to then President Trump in the general election. So he has been in this place before. He understands what it means to fight through tough battles and to connect. And I believe what he's shown over the last several days were probably something that the campaign wished they could have done immediately after the debate, but didn't. Now they're having to make up ground, and I think they're doing a good job, whether that's being in Pennsylvania or whether that's reaching out to members of Congress and letting them know where he stands and that he's firmly committed to win this race. I think it's up to us as voters. I think it's up to us as people with platforms to make sure that we bring along people that may be concerned, that we let them know what this president has done and what he is capable of doing, and also what former President Trump has done and is capable of doing. He now has a record. This is not 2016. This is not 2020. He has a political record, and now, as you said earlier, a legal record. And we need to make this about President Trump and what comes with him should he return back to the White House, not just for our nation, but for the free world. And I think if we can get out of this piece about who looked the best, or who looked better during the debate, but as opposed to who had command of the facts, who has command of the issues and knows how to work government. This is not a reality show. This is who knows how to work government. And I think when we look at the amount of legislation that President Biden has passed, again, I think it puts him as one of the most consequential presidents easily of the last 50 years, specifically when it comes to African Americans and other people of color in this country.
You mentioned it's up to us, and I am a firm believer in that as well, that we can win this race. We can win the election. We can win the House. We can win the Senate. It's going to be up to us to turn out voters. We did a show a week or so ago, though, on civic engagement, and we looked at cities, and there was a poll out, a research report out that shows the rankings of people, African Americans in particular, in terms of civic engagement. And some of the numbers were startling in terms of where people were in terms of civic engagement. And we know there's a lot of voter apathy, particularly amongst younger voters. That a lot of it had to do with the Israeli-Gaza crisis. We're not even talking about that anymore, but that's still very much an issue. And now we have this debate and we have the focus on by the media with all these theories about dropping out, getting the younger candidate. So we're compounding a civic engagement issue with more issues. Does that concern you about getting voters to turn out in this race if they are so turned off?
Oh, absolutely. I understand that, but I want to say to the young voters who are listening to your show and follow you, as well as those who have young voters in their households and their families, it is even more pertinent that they vote in this election than previous ones. There may not be the historic nature around the first Black president or the first female president to be had. However, when you look at the policy, you look at things that impact everything from home ownership to student loans to support for small and mid-sized businesses. When you consider even the foreign policy, expanding NATO, that's not something that people thought could happen just 2 years ago. And President Biden expanded NATO to make sure that we remain strong as a global collaborative of countries and nations that are for free will and that are for
hold that thought for me, Mayor. When we come forward, I want to definitely continue talking about foreign policy and its impact on this election. Also, Donald Trump's commitment to bringing back stop and frisk and what's happening around climate issues, particularly with these these hot temperatures that many cities are seeing, and now reports out that this heat disproportionately impacts Black residents. We've got a lot to talk about. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. St. Louis city officials are no longer considering eliminating the role of controller. KTVI-TV reports the St. Louis Charter Commission is dropping its plans to remove the position following disapproval from residents and Black Mayor Tashara Jones. The proposal was made following criticism of current controller Darlene Green, who has held the job since 1995. The commission was looking to replace the controller role with a finance department that works within the city government. Effective immediately, the Birmingham, Alabama Police Department will launch a new pilot safety initiative designed to cut down on violent crimes in the East Lake community. Project Safe Streets is a 90-day program that will involve blocking off certain entry and exit points and the installation of speed bumps and signs to limit speeding and drive-by shootings. Black Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin says a recent survey has found that 90% of all East Lake residents support the new initiative. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Over in the Coinga Pass on the 101 North after Barham Boulevard, expect a stop traffic delay up to 40 minutes from Western Avenue. Santa Monica Boulevard split as a motorcyclist is down, blocking 2 left lanes involved in a severe accident. In Long Beach, a crash is in the middle lane of the 710 south of the 405, while heavy traffic continues from Long Beach Boulevard under 10 minutes. South LA has a crash on the right shoulder of the 110 south at Adams Boulevard, with a slight delay running heavy from the 101. And over in the OC, in Costa Mesa, stop traffic is ahead on the 55 south between Del Mar Avenue, Fair Drive Interchange, and Newport Boulevard.
Want to save up to 50% on new blinds and shades? Blind Store offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters at prices way less than big box retailers. And right now, save up to 50% off any order during Blind Store's July 4th sale. Hurry, sale ends July 8th. Blindstore.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron confirmed that he took $3 billion less when he signed his new contract last week with the Lakers. LeBron signed a 2-year deal worth $104 million. He was eligible for a 3-year contract totaling $162 million. LeBron said he agreed to sign for less money to help the Lakers with their salary cap and allow the team to make trades when a quality offer is on the table. Apparently, Paul George's departure from the Clippers is a sensitive subject with Kawhi Leonard. After today's Team USA practice in Las Vegas, Leonard told reporters he did not want to talk about George leaving the Clippers to sign with Philadelphia. A few minutes later, Leonard wanted to clarify his comment, saying he didn't have an issue with George ending his 5-year run with the Clippers. Leonard and LeBron are in Las Vegas this week for a minicamp to prepare for the Summer Olympics in Paris. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader in the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelinos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
Workers in California cut and polish man-made stone for countertops, showers, and more. Without proper protections, workers breathe in harmful dust from the artificial stone material, which puts them at risk of developing silicosis. California employers are required to protect their employees from harmful silica dust by providing proper equipment and training. Stop dusty and deadly practices. Learn more at worksafewithsilica.org. This is a message from Cal OSHA.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
Linking social justice and climate justice all year long.
We're unapologetically progressive.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way Black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
We are back, and in this hour, I am joined by the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama. His name is Steve Reed. He's also the president of the African American Mayors Alliance. I said there were over 600 Black mayors in this country. I think I heard Mayor Reed say there were over 500, so I want to correct the record on that. We're talking about policies and focusing on the policies that Donald Trump has told us, Mayor Reed, that he would enact if he were president. One of them has a significant impact on Black men, and that's stop and frisk. He's out today saying that he would tie federal funding to cities, to police departments on whether they implement what he calls a proven method of criminal justice reform. He calls it stop and frisk. We know how dangerous, how harmful, how unconstitutional stop and frisk is, particularly to Black men. And what do you think about that? And how do we get Black men, you know, if you listen to the polls, I don't know, maybe as many as 20% of Black men may, according to some polls, be voting for Donald Trump. How do we get them to appreciate that that policy alone is reason enough not to vote for him?
Yeah, first, let me make a couple of points of clarification on the amount of Black mayors. There may be 600 in the African American Mayors Association. There are over 500 plus Black mayors. Not all mayors are members of the association, so I wanted to clarify that. And then second, you mentioned being mayor of Birmingham. I don't want to get in trouble. My good friend Randall Woodfin, but in Montgomery, which I know you know. I just want to correct that for the audience.
Oh, I am so sorry.
That's okay. That's
I, apologies. I've been calling you the mayor of Birmingham this whole show. You are the mayor of Montgomery. My apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're I've been called worse, so that happens. No, I think as it relates to Trump, he remains an existential threat to not only our democracy, but to many of the gains of the civil rights movement. I think it's very important for us to understand that what he represents is a level of racism and bias that we haven't seen in recent years in the White House. And the policies will reflect that because of their origins and the perspective in which they come. So when we talk about stop and frisk, we may as well just say mass incarceration, right? And so we don't want to go back to those old lessons because we've learned from them. So anyone who's considering voting for Trump or not voting at all, which I say is a vote for Trump, needs to keep that in mind because it may not be you, but it may be your friend, it may be your brother, it may be your cousin, it may be your uncle, your nephew. So when we think about these things, we have to take into account the totality of the mindset and the leadership. And that's not to say that the Democratic leadership is perfect, but we are far better, night and day better than what is being presented on the other side at this time. And for those who were not familiar with Project 2025 before Taraji Henson mentioned it at the BET Awards, thanks to her for getting people to kind of drill down. That is their playbook. That is their blueprint. And as Congressman Waters said, he has shown you who he is. He has shown you what he's capable of doing. And this time we should have no reason to think that it won't be worse because he won't be able to run again. So to even utter the word stop and frisk should be chilling to all voters, regardless of their color or persuasion, but in particular the Black men. And again, I think when you consider his approach to from Central Park 5 on to what he says is his ability to connect with Black men because he is found to be a felon and he has a mugshot, shows you the type of prejudice, shows you the type of what I will call just simplicity that he views Black people as. And I think that's something we have to keep in mind as we're considering this election season and we're considering who to vote for, not only at the top of the ticket, but even those down ballot who will look to implement his policies and his perspective at the federal, state, and local levels.
Yeah, no, it's very scary, and I just hope that that message gets out there to Black men because it's very, very dangerous, and we know the results. Not just mass incarceration, we know many Black men will die at the hands of police. They do every year, and increasing the interactions with police because of these unconstitutional stop and frisk policies. Will just only enhance that number. But Donald Trump says, Mayor Reed, if he gets elected, he's going to tie federal funding to cities. So cities like yours, cities all around this nation will have to compete for these dollars and they'll have to show that they are implementing this policy. Why does that make this election even more significant for mayors, particularly those mayors like you who believe that these stop and frisk policies are dangerous?
Yeah, that's a reckless approach. It's irresponsible. And it's something that I take very seriously. When we converse among the African American Mayors Association, public safety are always things that we're discussing, better ways to be preventive and to be proactive, how to increase community violence intervention, how to make sure we're talking about de-escalation and conflict resolution in these approaches. None of these things have to do with more arrests. None of these things have to do with pulling people over based on a profile. None of these things have to do with anything that not only predated George Floyd's murder, but predated where we were prior to 2010, after President Obama came out with the 21st Century Policing Act. And we think about those words that President Obama said at the White House about Trayvon Martin could have been his son. When we consider that, I want your listeners and I want those who, again, are thinking about staying at home, because I keep hearing this broadly. Now, I haven't run into a lot of that, and I'm in as many fraternities and Black men's organizations I think that exist. But that's not to say it's not there. So I want to be very respectful of that, not only what I hear locally, but what I hear nationally in a broader conversation. But if you're thinking about sitting this election out, then you are just as reckless as Trump is for even suggesting that that's the way we should go back to. That is a direct threat to the freedom of Black and brown men, period. That is a direct threat to, again, the progress and gains that have been made over the last 15 or so years as it relates to community policing and what many of us are trying to do from St. Louis to Baltimore to Montgomery to Chicago. It does not matter. If they are really interested in making our community safer, then why don't we have sensible gun reform? Why don't they endorse red flag laws? Why don't they close the loopholes at gun shows? Why don't we require more background checks for guns? Why don't we outlaw the assault rifles? Why don't we get rid of these permitless carry bills, which have proliferated our state legislatures across this country, which are led by conservatives? If they're really serious about that, then there are ways to reduce gun violence. There are ways to reduce the impact of those not only who are killed, but those that are suffering from gunshot wounds. There are a lot of ways. Bump stock bans, issues around Glock switches. I can go on and on for a number of issues for those who are serious about gun violence. But here's the thing. I don't believe they're serious about gun violence. I believe that there's an ill intent as it relates to who is really the target of some of these laws and what the idea is to roll back the progress that has been made in criminal justice reform. So anyone, again, who is not talking about voting, who is not willing to volunteer in this election, from your DA in your local community to your sheriff, to your congressman and senator, to your president, all the way down to the local level of your council member, that is a problem. And that's why Black men in particular have to step up, bow up, and acknowledge our role and where we are right now and how we get out of it. Doesn't happen in one election cycle, but it happens consistently in making our voices heard so that people like Trump aren't throwing around reckless, and I should even say dangerous policy initiatives like bringing back stop and frisk.
Yeah, when we come forward, got to talk about Black jobs. A lot of debate about what a Black job is, what it isn't, who's taking quote unquote Black jobs, and what should Democrats do now? The president has said, look, shut all this noise down about me stepping down. But folks are waiting. Look, wanting some direction, some instructions about what we do to move forward, given that we are 119 days away from this election, only 42 days away from the Democratic National Convention. I'll probably see you there. I'm a delegate for the state of California. And I keep reminding people that to become a delegate, you had to pledge your vote to the Biden-Harris ticket. It's not some generic pledge that you make. So even some of this was just such silliness because you have this whole delegate issue that, it's no easy thing to overcome. But I want to talk about how we move forward. Again, I'm talking to the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, Steve Reed, and I'm so happy to be doing so. So stay with us when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take
taking Auntie to the swap meet.
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take the retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Have you been a victim of discrimination at a private business, by a landlord while seeking housing, by an employer, or by an academic institution? If so, the LA Civil Rights Department may be able to help. Please contact us at CRE@lacity.org or call 213-978-1845. Again, 213-978-1845 or visit laisforeveryone.com.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
We are back, and I am speaking with Steve Reed. He is the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, and is the president of African American Mayors Alliance. So one of the things that Donald Trump said in the debate that we've all talked about didn't get nearly as much attention as Joe Biden's performance is the statement about Black jobs. It started trending on social media. You saw all kinds of funny memes, people asking, what is a Black job? Donald Trump's team tried to clean it up and says, oh, Black people are overreacting. A Black job is just any job that a Black person has. Tim Scott, Black man from South Carolina, senator, kind of dodged the question when he was asked, what is a Black job? But clearly that's a statement that and Trump double downs on. He's used it even since the debate to try to stoke fear into the hearts and minds of Black people to convince them that somehow immigration or immigrants are coming into this country and taking their jobs. And we've seen cities like Chicago, New York, and even LA have to deal with large numbers of immigrants coming into their cities, being shipped there on buses from border states like Texas. What are you saying, Mayor Reed, or mayors are saying to Black folks about this notion that somehow immigration is the reason why a Black person may not have a job in this country?
You know, I've had the opportunity to talk to Mayor Bass in LA and Mayor Johnson in Chicago and Mayor Adams in New York. And obviously the cities that you mentioned, particularly in the Midwest and in the Northeast, have had a difficult time dealing with the migrants that have been flown and bused there. That is certainly an issue that we're sensitive to, and we want to respect all the mayors and their communities and some of the challenges, their social services, their community organizations, the great work they've been doing, but also being stretched thin by that. So we know that there's an issue around immigration. President Biden and Vice President Harris have put forth a plan, and we should mention a plan that they put forth over a year ago was tanked by Donald Trump, who called Republican leaders in the Senate as well as the House and said, don't vote for it because Biden will get credit for it. So we got to think of this is the type of narcissist you're dealing with. This is the type of megalomaniac that we're talking about on the other side. One who would sink a bipartisan piece of legislation that would benefit the country for his own political gain. I don't know that we've seen a level of self-centeredness and selfishness that we have in someone like Trump. But I also don't know that we've seen a bunch of lemmings like you've seen in the Republican Congress and House that will fall for that just as well for political gain. So as it relates to migrants taking jobs, nothing could be further from the truth. When we see unemployment in the Black community at its lowest level in years, when we see that the wages per hour in Black families have gone up at a higher level under this president, more so than any other. When this president, through his leadership, steered us out of a recession, which we know would have impacted Black and brown communities disproportionately. So the notion that people coming to this nation to seek a better opportunity is somehow having a negative impact on the job prospects of African Americans in this country is nonsensical. It makes no sense and it has no merit.
Yeah, it's just not borne out by the facts. In fact, the economy grows as a result of migrant workers. And in places like Los Angeles, we can't even hire enough people. You go into your local Starbucks, you go into your local restaurant, there are job openings. I was standing in a line at a Home Goods the other day, 2 cashiers, and they had, of course, big sign out hiring. So this notion that somebody's taking your job, you're right. It's not true. There are jobs out there. People want to work. There are jobs all over this country that are available. I'm an employer. We can't hire enough people for my organization. So we are in a really good place in this country because of Biden and Harris around employment. And as you said, the lowest Black unemployment rate ever. And Biden and Harris have created more jobs in more than any other president in recent history. So the record is just so replete. We've got 119 days, Mayor Reed, to sell this message. And we just had a major blip. We just had a big week of distraction. Major newspapers like the New York Times editorial board calling for Joe Biden to step down. Other major editorial boards. And again, like I said, some Congress people, Democratic leaders. I've never seen anything like this. I was just incensed. All the things that Donald Trump has done, we've not seen major newspapers en masse calling him to step down, like when he gets convicted of 34 counts, like when he gets adjudicated as a rapist. Didn't see a big editorial from the New York Times or Washington Post or Wall Street Journal calling for him to step down, saying he's unfit. So we have to be really careful about the media that we consume and understand
and
the motivation.
Who owns that media and who runs that media?
Who owns it? Who are they donating money to? You can find that out as well. We find, a lot of these media companies are owned by wealthy billionaires who are big Donald Trump supporters. So we need to check the source before we, run down the road. But in these last couple of minutes, what do we need to do as a party? I think a lot of people are feeling uncertain. They don't know what to do. Some people, I had a text this morning, woman's like, we're going to go out and start doing a poll, checking the temperature to see if people will vote for Kamala Harris. I said, please don't do that. Please go and do what you can to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris reelected. I said Kamala Harris in 2028, but Kamala Harris is not running for president. So there are a lot of people who are still confused about what they should be doing. Help us out.
I think that what Democrats and those independents who don't want to see another Trump presidency, or maybe I should even call it a monarchy, given what the Supreme Court just did in their ruling. I think that what we have to do is to get back to basics. What do we stand for? What do we want to see this country be for the next 4 years? And who's best to lead us to that outcome? And I think it's no question, it's President Biden and Vice President Harris. We have to make the argument very simple about bread and butter issues, about pocketbook issues, what has happened to so many communities and how things have improved, where we were in 2020 coming through COVID, where we are right now. Certainly not perfect. Understand the impact of inflation, recognize that, but also recognizing a lot of the progress that's been made and understanding that for government to truly have an impact, in particular at a national level, for it to get down to the state and local level, it takes some time. But I think that we know that President Biden is one who fights for ordinary Americans. He feels slighted himself as someone who went to non-Ivy League schools, someone who has a blue-collar upbringing and doesn't have some of the things that Donald Trump was born with, was given at the age of 8 by his father to make him a multimillionaire. So I think we have to make sure we get past, again, what I'm going to call the superficial evaluation of these things, and we look at who can do the job as CEO of this country, as a president and a leading figure in the free world. And the best person to do that is one who is not co-opted by foreign adversaries, one who is not in bed with the enemy, but one who's been looking out for everyday Americans his entire career. Has he had slip-ups? Yes, but he's had step-ups as well. He served President Obama admirably in 8 years as his vice president, did enormously well in that role. He has held his promises through that he made to African-American voters to name more Black judges to the federal courts, people who go to your church, who go to mine, people who come out of your organizations and mine, people who we can talk to and we see at the grocery store and whose mother and father and family members we know, as well as appointing the first Black female Supreme Court justice. So these are just a few of the things that he's done, along with the other policy wins that we've had. And when you look at his Justice 40 initiative, I want to end with this. That is essentially what Maynard Jackson, Marion Barry, Tom Bradley did to make sure that Black businesses were getting contracting opportunities with the government. That Justice 40 initiative, which is in all of our federal initiatives passed by the Biden administration, recognizes the importance of investing and building Black businesses in all of our communities. That cannot be overstated, because we know those businesses tend to employ more of our friends and neighbors and others. So
we are out of time, Mayor.
That's what we have to share.
We're out of time, but thank you so much for mentioning it. I got to have you back. This ended up being Morehouse Monday. My first guest was a Morehouse man. I recognize that you are too. Again, Steve Reed, Mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, president of the African American Mayors Alliance. We'll definitely have you back to talk about that Justice 40. Really, really good stuff. Thank you so much for everything you're doing and all those Black mayors. Keep stepping up. I love that. Slip ups, but step ups. We're going to end the show on that note. Next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers in the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580.